Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Catherine.
Hello. It's terrible to be here.
Oh,
Hello,
well, I hope it will
everybody.
get better.
Wait, I have to... Yeah, now it's better. Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Sandra.
Yeah,
We're happy to have you here, Catherine.
thank you very much.
Well, I would say we get started. I think Sylvie is also kind of registered, but she might join up later. I know that my mom registered as well, but she will not show up. She will watch the recording later. So this is anyways a free flow thing, right? So Catherine, for you, if you want to contribute something, you can. If you don't want, then that's also perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
So we will just see what happens. We just have our topic of the month, and we are quite unprepared ourselves, which is always the best thing, for me at least, to be spontaneous and see what comes up with the topic. Speaking of which, I'm going to quickly read what the idea was behind today's session. So the topic is how to not lose yourself in others. And initially my thought was to talk about expectations and boundaries and how our senses are focused outside and sometimes not really connected with ourselves, and to address some of those common situations that many people, I believe many people experience, where they have a hard time staying with themselves as soon as they meet other people or are in groups of with other people. But Sonia also had another idea to talk about some sort of energetic or empathetic connection with others, that when you meet certain people you feel energized, and with other people you feel drained. We could address that as well. But I'm curious what's there for you, all of you, in this moment, and then we start there, I would say.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So actually, I think you already mentioned something important when we are together with other people, be it just physically or energetically, it doesn't matter. It's about boundaries, right? And when I hear the word boundary, at least for me, it always has this kind of negative touch, like I have to create some boundaries, and healthy boundaries. It should not be unhealthy. So it always feels like an effort, right? I have to be very conscious of, okay, do I have a boundary? Where is the boundary? It doesn't matter if it's in a relationship or if it's just energetically, if somebody is sitting in front of me. But it should be something natural, right? It should feel natural when you're with other people. And I wonder, how can you have like your space for your needs, for your energy, and give the other person their space? And then there is a natural kind of boundary where the both of them meet, right? Without having to think of, okay, where do I set my boundary? Without having to make a kind of an effort to decide where I have my boundaries. What do you think about that? Or maybe also Kelly and Catherine, please. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, to me it resonates very much. I have this problem most of the time that I am afraid to overgo the boundaries of the other people, that I'm too straightforward and that they can't handle with it. And this causes me problems and makes me insecure.
Is that mostly, why would you say that you're afraid that you cross other people's boundaries? Because you have boundaries as well, right? Or you have your own space and the other person has their space. What makes you think that you're crossing the other person's boundaries?
I can't explain this at the moment.
All right.
Yeah.
I can quite relate to what you say, Catherine, because I grew up in Western Germany in Duisburg, and we are quite honest and straightforward there. And coming to Switzerland was a bit of a cultural test for me. Here, it seems to me at least, I don't want to generalize, but it seems to me that people like their harmony in a way. And I oftentimes felt like I'm crashing in. Yeah, I'm like a bulldozer, you know. I made a simple joke or a simple comment, and people felt offended by that. So I had to really learn the social construct here a little bit better. But something that I find very interesting, and I don't have an answer to this, is where lies the responsibility? Is it my responsibility to make other people comfortable, or is it their responsibility to say no? You know, like it's a fine line, yeah.
Yeah. I just was thinking now, sometimes it's as well this that the other person offends my boundary, and then I start to react on this and get very direct and very hurting, I suppose. So I don't keep my inner stability.
And
So
is it that you wait?
It's a game between the two persons. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I wonder, is it that you wait too long to say something, or does that happen immediately, that you come across very direct?
Yeah, if I think at the example I had today, was really that I waited too long. Yeah.
I can relate to that as well, because sometimes I think to myself, yeah, it's not so bad, you know. Let's forget about this. Okay. But then something sticks and something starts to pile up. And then at some point, you have a confrontation. We have that sometimes, Kelly.
I think there's a nice wordplay in responsibility. It's about responding to your own needs and your own space. But I think it's also about the ability to choose if you want to respond or not. So there seems to be some wisdom in that as well. Sometimes I need to respond when I feel like my space is being threatened. Sometimes I don't need to respond because it won't help the situation when the opposite won't understand. I think it's very contextual for me, in my experience. I'm the type of person who's very sensitive. I can't be in big communities for a long time. It affects me heavily. And it's very difficult to stay with myself, whatever that means. Because if I feel all the other emotions in the room, how do I know which are my emotions? So I guess that's where my chaos begins. How do you guys feel about that?
I think what you spoke of now is more the energetic part of being with other people, while I think Catherine, you more spoke of the communication part, as I understood. And I think both is a part of being overwhelmed or getting lost in another person or offending another person, seemingly. So that's why I think it's a very complex situation, because multiple things happen at the same time. We have to be kind of present with the other person. We have to be present with ourselves, ideally, to feel what is happening, and check our way of communicating, right? Communicating but from our own point, without like offending or judging the other person. And at the same time, energetic things might happen. We might feel tension or an unease or even overwhelm. And sometimes this is in alignment with what we are communicating or experiencing. But what can be very distressing, and what I experience often, is that the communication is kind of neutral or harmonious, but on an energetic level, it feels very different, maybe uncomfortable or stressful, and it's kind of a dissonance. And this can be huge stress, and that's when I get out of balance. So it's like different things happen on different levels, and that's what's very challenging. So this is where I struggle, at least.
Do you need two questions, if I may ask? One is, which level is more important to you? Is it the energetical or the communication? And let's pause there.
Well, it's a good question. I think body-wise, what my body impacts more is the energetic part. And what we tend to ignore is also this, how our body responds, right? Because we have, especially maybe as Swiss people, we have to be polite, we have to be attentive, we should not express any emotions because this could offend or destabilize the other person. So this is where you kind of play another role than what actually happens in your body. So for me, ideally, it would be also a good thing to be able to voice what is happening in my body. It's like telling the other person, look, I feel uncomfortable right now, not meaning because of you, but just in this situation. But as you said, Catherine, before, I also noticed, let's say at work, when I voice that, like, I feel uncomfortable in this meeting, or it's too chaotic, could we please maybe just make a pause or calm down? People sometimes feel offended, or they cannot even relate to what I'm saying or what I'm talking about. So we're kind of on different levels. They're just perceiving the communication part, while I speak from another perspective, and we can never meet because we're not on the same level. So especially in work situations, this is often very challenging. But I think the energetic part, to feel safe and kind of harmonious, at least in the moment, is the basis for a good communication. But yeah, I haven't found an answer how to connect when the other person is not either not able or not willing to meet you on that level, right? To talk about what is, let's say, present with your feelings or with your body. Any ideas from you?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? If somebody, and we are not taught in school, at least maybe it starts now, I don't know. Kelly, your friend, told you a bit about that some changes happening in schools right now. But when I was in school, I wasn't taught any body awareness, any emotional intelligence. It was not of any interest. It was all here in the mind, logical, rational talk. There rarely was a question, how are you feeling? The question was always, what do you think about it? So if somebody has never learned how to address the emotions, you can't meet them on the same level. So it's a form of education is needed, actually, a form of openness. And I'm strongly advocating for normalizing this, normalizing to speak about what's going on inside as an inner process. And not as an offense. It's not offensive. It's just a report, It's like I report that I feel sad, or I report that I feel stressed. This is something that happens in me. I'm not blaming or shaming anyone for that. It's just a statement. And when we are able to say that, to address the elephant in the room, so to say, it creates an alignment, because what you said as well, Sonia, is sometimes their communication says this, but the energy says something else. And when both are aligned, at least I feel much more comfortable with that person.
Exactly. And if I just may mention one more thing that I experience a lot, especially when my clients or patients in that case are stressed, because they have reason to be stressed if they're in pain or if they have a physical issue. They come with a lot of heavy emotions and a need to get out of this state. And this uncomfortable state that they're in is very contagious. So I realized in the past that sometimes, even though I go into a discussion or a talk very open and neutral, after that I felt unbalanced or even irritated. And it took me quite a while to realize that I kind of tuned into that unbalanced state of the other person. So what I'm learning still is to notice, first notice what kind of energy is coming through from that person. Just how do I feel when a person talks to me, and what does that do with myself? Because some topics or some feelings I don't react very strongly, but if that resonates with something inside me, or maybe I'm having like a difficult day, then this affects me. And when I'm present, I can feel shift something inside me. And it's only when I'm present that I realize that I'm adjusting or matching that energy and getting irritated as well, even though this is not my energy and not my state. I think this is an automatic thing. And then there we are again with the boundaries, right? Because some people then advocate, well, you have to have your boundaries and you have to have your distance. But we want to stay open with other people as well. We don't want to build walls. So Kelly and Matthias, and also maybe Catherine, do you have a good tool, or what is your method of staying open with people, but at the same time not tuning into their state of, I don't know, emotion or being, or just their state, but staying with your own emotions without, building that wall and kind of getting completely closed?
Something comes to mind instantly, and it reminds me of my past in school, because I was a very big people pleaser, and it reminds me now, as soon as I wanted something from others, I was already not with myself anymore. So as soon as I wanted other people to validate me, to acknowledge me, to love me, to give me affection and attention, I was not with myself. And that's the first thing that comes up for me now while you ask this question, which is a beautiful reminder of my past and something that I don't want to repeat. And it takes great vigilance to not fall back into those patterns of trying to please, because there's a belief there that says I'm not good enough.
So would you say then that this contagion or this alignment of energies, I don't know how to call it maybe, but this can only happen if we have a tendency to please, or if we have an agenda? Is that what you're saying?
I think I could say from my experience, yes. Don't think it has to be true for everyone else, but I'm pretty sure when I'm outward focused and I'm trying to get something, then I already believe I'm in lack. And then I'm already experiencing that lack. And then in most cases, when I'm in that lack, I don't even get what I really want or need.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'm on that energetic level, if you want to call it that way, or frequency. And because I'm on a frequency of lack, I'm going to get lack back. So as long as my opposite is not truly aware and can be very present with their own, being with themselves, they will most likely fall into the trap that I've already created.
Okay, that is getting a little bit complicated for me. Can you bring a real life example so we can relate to it a little bit more?
Okay.
Let's
If me
say
and Matthias trigger each other and one of us is not
Which
aware
never
in that
happens, obviously.
Of course
Never.
not.
No. I'm totally making this up right now, right? You know that. When we trigger each other and one of us is not aware, then we meet each other with the same frequency, which is mostly fear. If one of us stays aware while it's happening and we stay in love, which also means I'm staying with myself, but I'm still remaining open and receptive to whatever could happen. I'm not following an agenda, as you said. Then most likely the trigger will fizzle out pretty quickly.
Yeah. So you say, what you're saying is like at least one person has to stay aware or not like present, but without any agenda, right?
That would be ideal.
Yeah. And I think, in a relationship setting, if you're at home and you're sitting down to talk, I might imagine that this is possible at least. But I wonder, Kelly, maybe in a meeting, let's say you're in a meeting and there are lots of agendas, not just even the official one, and you have like a time frame, or you maybe even need to lead the meeting. So there is naturally there is already an intent or an agenda. How do you manage it in such a situation?
I take a breath and I pause for a moment, because that gives me more space in my response ability.
Presence, yeah. Okay.
What do the others do? I'm curious. Catherine or Matthias? There are a lot of people around you. They've all got an agenda. You're not quite sure what's happening. How do you be present and not lose yourself?
Yeah, I would say most of the time I lose myself. Yeah, and I can't tell you.
That's okay. It's a great acknowledgement knowing that you do lose yourself. That's already awareness and presence right there.
And I think everybody has experienced that most of the times.
Totally.
I'm stuck with something from before, where you started sharing, Sonia. I believe that, and that came up in the training that I took with Gabor Mate about trauma integration. For the longest time, I thought that me being able to feel other people's emotion is like a kind of a superpower, which it is. But it is actually a coping strategy when you're surrounded with people that have trouble accessing their own emotion or communicating their own emotion, right? So for someone who is emotionally very empathetic, having the ability to feel other people's emotions, the trauma perspective would recommend to develop healthy boundaries, to learn to set healthy boundaries. Now comes the paradox. The spiritual path, the inner work, so-called inner work, is all about being open. Being open to the extent that you're so open that everything hits, that everything goes through. There is no defense. The spiritual process is about removing all the defenses. Now, how much of a paradox is this, right? The trauma people say, build healthy boundaries. The spiritual guys say, open yourself up fully and surrender. I've been in this paradox for many years because everything hits. Everything is going through. And at the same time, I look at where it hits and what it hits, and this is my work. But I know that setting a boundary as a defense mechanism is not going to mature me.
Yeah.
And yet, in some cases, it will protect me when it's getting too heavy, you know? So this is a bit of a balancing act.
Again, back on what Sonia said with intention or agenda. Is creating boundaries something that is done from a place of fear, where you feel like you have to defend parts of yourself? Or does it come from a place of love, where you say, I love myself so much that I respect myself and I hold my integrity, and I can leave a space as soon as it becomes unsafe for me? And by choosing this, I choose to love myself and I choose to love you as well.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, I find, because we're talking about an ideal situation where you can actually leave. But there are often moments, it might even be in the bus, you're stuck in a bus with a person who's drunk or who's aggressive, and you're not able to leave. So you have to deal with that actual situation, even though you feel very uncomfortable, There is also like the question of, okay, how can I build my boundaries, etc. So presence, I think this is one key element that we figured out is essential in relationship, in work situations, noticing what happens with me. Do I have boundaries or not, right? And voicing our needs, voicing these boundaries, and being able to leave, ideally, or voice that I would like to leave. But then there are always situations in life where we are not able to do that. Might also be like family situations where we just are confronted with difficult situations and we have to still be able not to get lost in the other person, even though we definitely feel that the moment is not very good for us. We're not able to really communicate. We cannot leave, and still we have to deal. So maybe this is what you mentioned. This is a moment where we have to bring up very strong and clear boundaries and cannot be open, because this would be destructive or even dangerous to our vulnerable parts, right? So maybe it is also a question of the situation. Can I be open? Can I allow myself to be open? Or is it a moment where I have to protect myself, really? Because otherwise it would be harmful for me. And I'm not always sure. I mean, sometimes we're so distracted we don't even realize, is this still safe or is this not safe? Because our body gives us like maybe not the right signal, or a distractive signal, or we don't even notice what happens, right? So for me, it's always the body. At least the body is something that I can trust. When the body is reacting, doesn't matter if it's an aggressive person or dangerous outside, but then I feel unsafe. And then I somehow have to be aware enough not to react, but to notice my boundaries, my needs, and try to communicate that in the best way possible, right? At least that's what I'm trying, but it's quite complicated, I find, very often.
I think we oftentimes, just to add a little something, thank you for sharing. Oftentimes we assume that it's an obligation to stay, especially in family situations. And I believe it's not. Nobody has to endure some kind of like suffering or pain. We have to as a child, because we literally can't run away. When we are very little. And that's when we learn to dissociate, to basically disappear into another world, because it's unbearable. But as adults, no, I don't believe that we have the obligation to stay in these places.
What kind of gesture was that, Kelly?
Difficult to explain, but on my screen, Matthias is above me, and I'm sort of going, truth, truth.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, in social situations, even at work, maybe we could always say, like, let's say if a coworker gets very personal and aggressive or something like that, is clearly crossing our boundaries, even though we voice that even in such a situation, we should be allowed to just leave the meeting or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could turn this around. This person believes they are allowed to talk to you like that. So why shouldn't you be allowed to leave? You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, but I also know the pressure in work situations in some ways, especially when it's some higher up, you know, behaving like this. But that's my problem. That's why I'm self-employed. You know, I would never in the world let that happen to me. But that's why I cannot work in companies.
Okay, we all get self-employed. No, but it's a good reminder that sometimes it's our mind maybe telling us like, okay, you have to endure this situation, or you cannot express your need. But a lot of it is probably just conditioning and not an actual option.
Yes, and you know, there's another element. Sometimes we don't express our needs because we want to be polite or we want to come across as polite. And I personally, I don't see it like this. When somebody expresses a need, I appreciate that because I understand better. I have more clarity where they are at. It makes it easier for me to meet them. If they don't express, I have to make assumptions. And then I live in my own little world up here, trying to match their needs, which I'm not aware of, right? So I'm all for transparent and direct communication, even though sometimes it sucks. Yeah, it's not always fun to hear. Well, but what is this thing? You know, the truth. What is it? The truth hurts, but it sets you free, or whatever. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you mentioned Gabor Mate. I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with him, but he also has this famous talk about the need for authenticity, like our needs and our thoughts, but then also our need for attachment or community. So a lot of times, at least in social situations, and you mentioned that as well, Kelly, when you said you were a people pleaser in the past, it always sounds negative, like, well, this person is a people pleaser, but oftentimes this is not a choice. We do that because otherwise we are very much afraid that we get abandoned by our peers or our family caretakers. So it's a real deep-seated fear. And at least for me, it helped me when I realized, thank you to Gabor Mate, that this is like an essential need. It's not just a social behavior, and that we have to get clear on how important is this relationship, this attachment that I so severely try to protect. Am I willing to sacrifice my own needs just to keep this relationship seemingly harmonious, right? So just reflecting is already helping to get a little bit distant there and not fall into a reactive pattern.
One antidote is never abandon yourself. If you never abandon yourself, you drop the need to be whatever liked by others. Yeah, but it sounds simpler than it is in practice.
Yeah, because some people are just trained from childhood to abandon themselves to, let's say, take care of their parents, so they don't even realize that they're abandoning themselves.
Yes, that's the work. That's hard work.
True.
By the way, it's already 35, so just to be aware of the time.
So any last words from you? I don't know, maybe?
Is there anything important to say? go ahead.
I joined very much the last statement of Sonia. I can really agree to this, and of Matthias as well. And for me, it was interesting. It was a little bit strange to assist, but it was very interesting and beautiful. Thank you.
We enjoyed that very much. Thank you for joining, Catherine, also in the discussion.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Right.
Go back.
Are we good for it today?
I think so. I mean, we could continue the discussion. I mean, if somebody's interested, yeah, write down your comments, your questions, or your own experiences, and yeah.
Oh, and a little announcement. So the next live session in June will probably be around the topic of relationship, and it will probably be live from the retreat in Tuscany. So yes, it would be nice to see more people joining. It's a big topic.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's see what happens with the Italian vibe. Yeah.
May I also just add something at the end of this call and say thank you everyone for sharing your examples of having lost yourself and examples of how to stay with yourself. Very beautiful. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Well, have a beautiful rest of the day, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.